Folks, this is a non-profit website that I'm going to give you. It's medical information, not medical advice. You are here probably because you suffered from a very severe case of chronic prostatitis. The pain and situation like this can be so bad that you just want to die. I had a problem that lasted years and created multiple problems that followed afterward, and I created a website to try to help share some of the things I went through and give people insight what they can do to try to help solve the problem. If you're here, you've more than likely been abandoned by the medical community, and you're not going to get any help from your doctor. You have to tell your doctor what to do rather than the other way around. And so what I've done is created this web page which accounts for all my research, and I've had this for over 10 years, and I've just updated it. I've corresponded with at least 1,000 men all over the world, including some doctors, and I found that for the most part 99% will find relief if you keep experimenting, and so that's why I put this up. I do correspond with people occasionally, but I've kind of set my rule now. If you haven't tried saw palmetto for at least 2 weeks, I'm not going to send you a letter back. So if you do send correspondence off the website, there's a contact form on the website. I do respond, but you better have the first line that you spent 2 weeks experimenting with saw palmetto and it didn't work for you. Primarily this is about bacterial prostatitis, which is the least common form of prostatitis. Most people have bacterial and is cured by a simple course of antibiotics, and it goes away and that's the end of it. There are some unlucky people who can't find the right antibiotic, usually because it's an anaerobic bacteria, and then you end up with chronic problems afterward because of the damage that's done to your prostate. The primary cause of prostatitis is low testosterone, and don't let a doctor ever tell you that it has nothing to do with it, or that using testosterone will hurt prostatitis or make it worse, because 9 times out of 10, well, actually about 7 out of 10, low testosterone is the primary culprit. That's why saw palmetto is so important. And the primary treatment, the first line treatment that you can try is saw palmetto, about 2 grams a day, taken once per day. Don't split up your dose of a raw fruit or raw product. The extracts, you can't dose them as good. Raw product, usually you take multiple pills a day, so you can slowly increase your dose. Start out with 2 grams. If after 3 days you don't feel anything, add another pill, and keep working your way up till you have experimented with it and decided it isn't doing anything, or it's solving your problem. If saw palmetto helps, you probably have a hormone issue. Now, there's only one caveat to that. You might have a cancer called prolactinoma. I've run across two of these in my years of corresponding with people and got people proper treatment just because I suggested they have a hormone test for prolactin, because high prolactin levels in sensitive people will cause severe prostatitis, and it's a perfectly curable cancer. Now, so the bottom line is, use saw palmetto, experiment with it. If that doesn't work, yeah, I'll take your letters and I'll try to work with you. I've done it with 1,000 others and might as well help you too. The second common is pelvic tension. Now, this is usually secondary to a lot of damage. Either you've had hypogonadism for a long time, or you've had damage, or you've had a severe infection that's been cured. Pelvic tension is like a soreness. It's a pulling on the prostate with the muscles and in the pelvis, and pelvic tension can be diagnosed usually by simply taking anxiety type medications, which are muscle relaxants, so benzodiazepines, Valium, which I don't suggest, clonazepam, which I do suggest, and that will usually bring the pain down to a livable status. Actually, it'll bring it down to the point where it causes practically no pain. So if you can treat your pain with a muscle relaxant, you probably have a pelvic tension syndrome, and the ultimate result is you're going to have to modify your diet. Most of the pelvic tension is irritated and aggravated by certain foods, high acid foods. Believe it or not, yogurt, pineapple, cranberry, all the things you would think that would be good for you, they're the bad ones. But you can read more about that yourself. Bacterial prostatitis is you have to have a correct diagnosis. If you don't have white cells, you probably don't have it. However, there are exceptions. If you've been on antibiotics for long periods of time and you have an encapsulation, or you have an infection that seeds from other areas, it isn't necessarily definitive. Now, the problem with bacterial prostatitis is once you start on antibiotics, you probably can't get a good culture. And if you don't get a culture, you don't know what organism you're doing. That was my problem and why I ended up on antibiotics for almost 200 days. And the situation was it was an anaerobic infection. And anaerobes are really difficult to culture. And so it was just a matter of process of experimentation until I run onto a drug that was very effective against it, and then it went away in practically 3 days. But I was still left with a hormone problem and still left with a pelvic tension problem, which often are almost the same kind of pain syndromes as you have with bacterial prostatitis. Now, kidney stones is one that I don't really spend a lot of time on, but kidney stones can cause prostate-like symptoms. It's not prostatitis, but it sure makes you feel like you have it. So one of the things you want to test yourself with is just water and cider vinegar. Usually a quart of water with a quarter cup of cider vinegar, and you drink that 2-3 times a day to see if you can dissolve some stones and get something worked up. Now, the vinegar will irritate a pelvic tension syndrome, so you kind of have two tests in one. Finally, there's the last kind, which doctors are going to probably diagnose you with. Is called prostatodynia. And all that means is they don't have a clue as to what's wrong with you. And so in those situations, you have to be proactive. You have to take control and start experimenting with anything and everything you can think of. So I hope you get something out of this site. I tell you, it's a compilation of almost a decade of research and experimentation, and I have multiple pages on this. I have a prostatitis page for bacteria. I have a hormone-induced page, which talks a lot about low testosterone and things you can do to get yourself back in order. And also I put a candida page in, because if you've been on antibiotics for long periods of time like I have, you probably have improper makeup of digestive tract bacteria. Your colon's probably full of some types of fungus and yeast. And this is a fast way to get rid of that. So I hope that you find some information here that helps you. And good luck in your syndrome. Just remember, I've dealt with a good 1,000 men on this, and for the most part, everybody finds a way. There's always relief.